E ngā atua mātou tipuna, e ngā kaitiaki o ngā muri tūtiro ta ao. E ngā tipuna tiaki a mātou ngā wā katoa, kanui aku mihi aroha kia koutou katoa. Raurangatira mā, e ngā kupu e ngā reo, raurangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. Ai o ki te aorangi, aroha ki te aorangi, koa ki te aorangi, pono ki te aorangi. Kia tau po te kahukura, te wairua korehere, te kawe e te tika me te pono. He tohu aroha tēnei ki te ao whānui, he maumahara ki te whae a Papatuanoku. Some of you might have, hopefully all of you have read Te Wheke, and some of you will know that that is the mihi with which Rangimārie Pere Rose starts it. For me, it's particularly important, not just because it talks about the peace and the love and the joy to the universe and how that relates, hopefully, to what literacy brings to us as humans, but also because it talks about the concept of the violet flame of social justice never dying and always prevailing. And I have to say that my work in adult literacy has always been around social justice and about reclaiming that which has been taken from us. So before I go any further, I just want to acknowledge Ko Hangareo and the Trust for taking the claim of Te Reo again and the issue of equity to the treaty. The treaty offered us particular rights, many of them not only Māori but also Pākehā in the world of adult literacy. That particular right has been denied to over 1 million New Zealanders, and it's important to acknowledge that too. But congratulations to Ko Hangareo, tēnā rā koutou katoa. Believe it or not, I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to address you today. I'm a bit anxious, I have to say. I saw who was in the crowd and I thought, oh gosh. But anyway, moving on from that, fingers crossed. I have to say that then it gets it out, you know. And truly, I do recognise the honour of being in the presence of all of the intellectual, spiritual and operational leadership in this group, combined with your impassioned commitment to the best that we can be for actually not just our children and our future, but actually a lot of us to honour our parents and those who came before us, our tēpuna. For those of us who are lucky to know our families, for those of us who are lucky to have experienced the love and support of whānau, I believe it has been a motivating imperative that has enabled us to perform and contribute to our individual and collective well-being. I really acknowledge you, Cathy Irwin, for privileging the voice of Community Ed by offering me this opportunity to talk about the contributions of literacy to our future. And I must admit, when you gave me that question and I said to you the other day, oh, I just feel like standing up here and saying, because does this ever happen to you? You organise a big conference and the person says, I didn't really know I was here, and you simply think, you were briefed. I said to Cathy, I might say that. She said, don't you dare. So there you are. Didn't say it. But I also have to say, I didn't get your notes, Tony. I got nothing about jokes. I didn't even click to the after lunch blimmin' scene. So involved was I about my own issues. I didn't think about pictures. I thought about putting up a few key slogans, but nah. So sorry, folks. You get stories. You get 5 key points so that you've got those to summarise, and that's it. What you don't get is what I really wanted to say was, how does literacy contribute to the future? I don't know. So we don't say that one either. True. Cathy said I've got a lot to offer today. Anyway, I also want to say thank you to Te Komehana o Te Whānau, our whānau, for commissioning the report. You know, I don't know how many of you have read the executive summary for the report, but isn't it fabulous to have a strengths-based, positive report about us? Isn't it nice to hear about what we do well? One of the things I know is so often when I'm working in the communities that I work with and even in our national office, you know, our dimension is that we're constantly reframing the debate. We're actually saying, no, it's not like that for us, it's like this. We aren't who we're not, as you define what we're not. We are who we are. And so the report, I can't wait to read the whole thing, Cathy. This is one of the few reports I might actually not skim. the thing that's so important about it is it actually provides us with written evidence of our paradigms. It provides us with our realities in writing. And while that is frustrating that we have to have those paradigms in writing, because otherwise we're not evidence-based and therefore it's not real, it is really useful to have that. So thank you. Thank you to the Commission. Like I was introduced, my name is Bronwyn Yates. I'm the youngest of 9 children. My father was Ngārua William and my mother was Monehu Maraea. I am therefore of Te Arawa descent, mai maketu ki Tongariro, in case some of you still think that Te Arawa is a iwi. It's not, it's the waka. Ngāti Maniapoto, Taitanga Mahaki and Ara Whakamua. So, I haven't quite got to the calm me down part yet, but we'll get there. So the 5, there really are 4 things, but encapsulated in one of the points is the 5th, so I'll go through them now. The 4 key points are relatively simple. If we were looking at what we would contribute to the future, one is hopefully that we will continue to keep it human, and I'll get back to that. One is that we will continue to keep it relevant. Another is that we will continue to keep it fun. And the final one is that we will continue to keep it real. Now, some of you might think that relevant and real are the same, but hopefully, or maybe not, I'll show you why they're slightly different. The thing about keeping it human, when we talk about literacy, so often we'll think about literacy in terms of the things we do in literacy. So we'll think about listening, we'll think about speaking, we'll think about writing. We might think about the critical consciousness that we adapt to it. What we might not think about is what the literacy brings to us. So sometimes I think the question that we ask isn't about what is literacy, it really is what is literate. And then when we talk about what is literate, we should actually be talking about what is a literate person. And so when we talk about keeping the concept of literacy human, or keeping what we do human, it hopefully focuses it back on the students and the people that we're working with. Now, I said that there are over 1 million, there are 1 million adults in this country that have literacy difficulties. For some of us, we have no consciousness, no concept of what that's like. So just for a minute, I want you to think about a series of things, and I'm going to hopefully keep myself well paced, so I ask them one at a time. The first thing I want to ask you is, how did you become literate? Now, I don't want answers, but I just want you to think about, how did I become literate? So could you just think about that for a minute? When you think about that, are the people that you're thinking about your teachers? You can answer that one. No? Are the people you're thinking about your parents? So, the thing that often happens when we're talking about literacy for children is that we think about the schools and we think about the teachers. What sometimes we forget to talk about when we're talking about the issue of children's literacy improvement isn't about how the parents are informed about the children's performance, but actually how they're engaged in it. Now I want you to think about that and think about if you'd had really bad experiences at school, if you'd felt that your schooling had failed you, or worse, that you'd failed at school. Now I want you to think about how you could help your children as they go through school. So I just want you to think about that for a minute. Literacy is an intergenerational issue. If my parents hadn't been literate, I'm not saying educated, I'm saying literate. If they hadn't seen and experienced the value in literacy, I don't know that our family would have got to where they got to. In fact, I'm pretty positive we wouldn't have. But for those, every parent wants the best for their children. Every parent does. If they are unable to access the words and the support mechanisms that they can help their children with at school, those children are already going to have a difficulty. The thing about that, though, is that we don't even get how big it is. I'll read you the quote of a whānau member from a student a literacy program. She was often quite this is about a literacy student. She was often quite marooned in a whānau setting. It's not until she's been doing this course and is now doing all the things that I noticed she didn't used to do before that I realise how big it all is. She participates more and she has more confidence. That's from this report here. This report is called He Whānau Mātou, He Whānau Ora. It was written by Te Wāhanga, and I acknowledge now the contributions and genius of the likes of Helen Potter and Jessica Hutchins. Yes. I should mention the others, but I can't mention the others. Katrina Taupo, Sue McDowell and Peter Isaacs. This particular research was done as a reaction to John Key. John Key was saying the way we're going to fix children's performance at school is to work with the children. Nobody got the connection between the whānau and the child. And this particular report sought to actually establish that connection. We only worked with 23 people, so it's not the biggest, most rigorous, but it made the connection. In terms of keeping it human then, what we need to understand is that the adults we're talking about who will impact on their children are not beginner thinkers. They may be beginner readers, but they're not beginner thinkers. It's important to think about, because often when we think about literacy, can you understand what that would be like if you couldn't read? You can? You can understand that? What would it do to all the things that... Have any of you been to Korea? Because that's probably the closest I ever got to it, where nothing made sense. Nothing. And that's the issue around adult literacy that we've yet to unpack more. So the first issue is keep it human. The second issue is about keeping it fun. No, keeping it relevant. In my organisation, when we determine what we're going to be looking at for students, we have always worked on the basis that we will identify their needs through their own assessment, and then from there we will work. One of the problems that we're starting to recognise now, though, is that not all of us, as literacy workers, are skilled to cope with the future. Nada mentioned it before. People are being trained for jobs that don't exist. The future in terms of technology is changing. And for a lot of us as literacy practitioners, one of the first things we're going to have to really get much better at is understanding that if we dare to teach, we must never cease to learn. Keeping relevant ourselves as practitioners is actually going to be the bigger job for us than keeping relevant for students. Susan Reid, another literacy practitioner, said that the biggest issue for us now is not actually considering what the rocks are for ourselves as literacy practitioners, but what they are for students. When students are coming to us now, they are learning, once they've got past the fear of learning and seeing their success, they are now demanding to see that they become they achieve more in terms of literacy gain. It's no longer sufficient for them to feel that they have got the relationship between the teacher. This might seem really normal to you, but for students who've actually felt an incredible barrier, to now get to a stage where they are demanding more from their learning has been quite a positive and certainly powerful transition. When we talk about it in terms of kaupapa Māori, we need to understand that at this stage for our organisation we have insufficient literacy practitioners who are Māori. And it is true to say that for some people they have criticised us for being predominantly a Pākehā organisation. I have to say that at the moment that is true. I have to say that while we try to brown up the sector, the best we can do is to make those Pākehā who work with us the most appropriate they can be for Māori. In terms of that, one of the things that is relevant to us as Māori is pronunciation. Now, I get criticised quite a bit for this one because I don't speak Te Reo fluently. I'm not a whole range of things. But one of the things I'm really clear about is that if we talk about relevance and if we talk about respect, that if we can't say Te Reo Māori words correctly, then everything before and after that was actually a bit of a but. So, the last point I want to make in terms of keeping it relevant for all of us is we need to get the pronunciation correct. I was going to put up a text that my niece sent me once, and it took me forever to figure out what it was. It was a 4 and an NO. And I thought, what is she saying to me? I know, smart, eh? She's really smart. And of course she was saying whānau. I know, smart, eh? Yeah, so I did that about twice and nobody got it and they thought I was an egg, so I never bothered doing that again. Only my niece could probably get away with that. And I raise that because in terms of pronunciation, truly, in relation to literacy, one of the things none of us really mind anymore, we did before, is how you spell the words to get the message across, as long as you get the message correct. Do you get what I'm meaning? So if it's going to take you who pronounces whānau incorrectly, if you've got to say F-A-R-N-O to get it right, sweet. I mean, probably don't write that on a piece of paper because Tony might rally later, but truly, in your head, whānau, keeping relevant. Third point, keeping it fun. The thing about adult literacy is that we exist on the smells of woolly rags. We do. Trust me, I've done the maths, we do. That aside, it can still be fun. In Literacy Aotearoa, one of the things we did back in 1988, and part of the fun is actually about achieving the impossible. In 1988, one of the things that we did in an organisation, predominantly pāhia, middle-aged, middle class, yep, that's pretty much it, was that we decided we would honour the Treaty of Waitangi. But we actually decided we would honour the Treaty of Waitangi. It was something that people considered was stupid. Some of my friends said things like, geez, I wish you had the pāhia in your organisation that we have in ours. I mean, you know what I mean. And we stood on it. I said, we do. We have the same pāhia. They're the same. But one of the things we've figured out is this. You can't jump a chasm in 2 leaps. You just can't do it. You'll fall. Yeah? Just in case you didn't get that one. It's after lunch. I understand it. So if you're going to honour the Treaty of Waitangi, honour it. Now, granted, there were lots of tears and torturous moments in it. But actually, being courageous, being luminary is actually a good word. Does anyone know what it means? I'd be amazed if you do. You know why? Because I made it up at a meeting one time and everyone used to say, no, we don't know, we can't do it. And I said, nah, just be luminary. Where did I get that from? Where did I get it from? Angels and... that other one. What's the Da Vinci Code? I made that up from that word there. Anyway, so the point I'm getting to in terms of that is the impossible can be fun. It can be. 20 years later, the organisation knows that by becoming treaty-based, we did some quite phenomenal things. And it wasn't easy, but it was still fun. We changed the percentage of Māori participation from 8% to 40%. We didn't drop the numbers, in fact we gained. We went from 4,000 students to 10,000 students. So we never lost students, we just gained. We increased the number of Māori practitioners, we increased the number of Māori managers, and we increased the number of Māori providers. All of those things were done truly to make a difference for learners. And it could have been a real drag. It could have been. But the only way it was ever going to happen was if we actually understood that it was worthwhile doing. And when you do that, you can start to find the fun parts in it. Well, that's what we found. Serena. It was fun for us, but most importantly, it was fun in terms of what we achieved. I didn't say fun had to be easy. I just said it had to be fun. And then the last one is about keeping it real. I'll just get this paper out that I've just put away. In terms of whānau ora, I'll just bring it up here. In terms of whānau ora, the 6 key goals that they raised there, in terms of the 6 key goals for the initiative, are these. One is that whānau ora is when whānau are self-managing, when they are living healthy lifestyles, when they are participating fully in society, when they are confidently participating in te ao Māori, when they are economically secure and successfully involved in wealth creation, and when they are cohesive, resilient and nurturing. The reality is that for a lot of our whānau, we're not there. The reality is that if we all do our jobs well, we can make a difference. What we know through adult literacy is that when students attend literacy programs, they not just increase their literacy skills, they actually increase their confidence. They don't just increase their ability to work well if they are in jobs, they increase their employability. They don't just become productive for their workplaces, they become productive for their families. They don't just become productive for their families, they become productive for their communities. That is the reality. That is the reality of commitment, not by necessarily government, but by the humans that work with the other humans. There are moments, I know, when I look at the stats, and I know that the first time the International Adult Literacy Survey came out, I was horrified with the way it came out. It came out as a deficit. It came out saying a whole range of things about what we aren't, again, particularly Māori. And I remember thinking to myself, I've got to find the guy that actually wrote this, and he's actually got to come down to a literacy program one day and see the people he's writing about. Because he's got to get that they're human. He's got to stop writing about them as if they're just a number. So he came to a student writing event, from which I'm going to read my last piece, and he got the difference in the people. The systemic changes that we need to make in terms of government are part of our reality. We've got to make that change. That's going to be the fun. Go voting the way Tony said. But irrespective of that, what we can't control is the others. What we can control is ourselves. And if at the end of the day, when we control ourselves and our abilities, and we remember to keep everyone human, we will make the change in that moment. I want to close with a letter from one of the students. Once every 2 years, Literacy Aotearoa organises a student writing event. It happens with about 20 to 30 students. It's not the biggest event, but it's highly intensive and feels incredibly pressurised. In 24 hours, we write a book. The students who are literacy students who previously may have had quite huge difficulties are selected by their local groups, and they come forward and they write. The next day, they get that book presented to them. This is one of the stories, written by a chap called Joseph. And this is about keeping it real. Dear Dad, how are you doing? I hope you're good and keeping fit. I hope you're keeping out of trouble so that you can get out of there soon, and we'll be able to see you all day, every day. Anyway, everyone at home, Uncle, Shannon, William, Forley and I are all doing well. I'm going to the learning place. It's mean, Dad. I'm learning to read and write. I'm making a change in my life. I got out of the gangs and I'm making a change. Anyway, Uncle and I have cleared the beach road, and when they cut down the trees, they made the road rugged, so we've almost cleared it and reached the bottom. Auntie is keeping William busy. Got him going to the wharepaku. He is doing good. As for Forley, she is doing good at high school. She makes me mad sometimes, but kei te pai. Dad, we were waiting for you to get out of that hellhole. I'm missing you heaps. At our place, Uncle Wilson, Black, Tan, Bev and Auntie Ngaire have made the place look like home. They have a vegetable garden at the back and made one out front of the house. We now have curtains in every room. Dad, the house is full of stuff. The shed's full as well, but the house looks mean. Dad, you will love it when you get out. Well, Dad, that's all I've got to say. The family loves you, Dad. It's going to be fun when you come back and look after us again. I love you, Dad. Okay, I'll see you soon. Aroha nui, your loving son, Joseph. If that doesn't summarise everything about what everyone was talking today, I don't know. Joseph's a young chap, not so young, but young enough, who totally changed his life, and so has his entire family. They are growing back to sustainability, and they are doing it with pride. And when his dad comes home, he will be part of their change for the positive. I was going to say, I don't know if any of this helps, but I do know that once I go from here, I'll go back to doing my bit, to making it possible for Joseph to have that opportunity to learn, for every other student who's out there to have that opportunity to learn, and to make it damnedest possible that actually everyone understands that it's not about educating the individual, it's about educating everyone in the whānau. So on that basis, lots of love, have fun, good luck, work hard, mahi on.